And we're live. Welcome everybody to our weekly community team Q&A. This is something that we do every single week. It's usually, I think, an hour or two earlier than this, but because of UOS, we've had to work it into the schedule a little bit. So you can watch us either on summit.ubuntu.com if you look up this session. We should also be broadcasting on ubuntuonair.com. Either way, we're in the same IRC channel. It's #ubuntu-uos-community, and that's where you can go to ask us your questions. If you start them with the word question in all capital letters, it'll turn bright yellow for me, and that way I don't miss it. Hang on, I've got it playing somewhere. All right, well, I know the video is working at least. So yes, start questions with the word question in all caps. It'll turn bright yellow for me, and that way I don't miss it. I've got two guests on with me today. I've got Ali Reis, who's in charge of the client side of Ubuntu. So that now means both the desktop as well as phone and tablet development. And I've got Svetlana, who is a community leader who's involved in multiple projects, probably more than I could even remember to mention. On the community board, I think on the docs team, the news team, several others. So you can ask us, any of us, any questions. We will do our best to answer. If we don't know what the answer is, we will just tell you that. But we will do our best to answer as many of them as we can in the order that they come in. To start us off, I've asked Ali to introduce himself and talk a little bit about what he's going to be doing in this next cycle for convergence.
All right, thanks, Mike. So, for those that don't know me, my name is Ali Reis. I've joined Canonical probably like 4 years ago. Was brought on to help, getting the phone up and out of the door, and we've just recently done this earlier this year, which was like a big accomplishment. Years and years of work have gone into that. On our side, on the community side, Rick mentioned earlier today, like the contributions from the community on the phone for the core apps, which is just like outstanding. And so for this cycle and hopefully beyond that, I'm in charge of the Ubuntu client side of things. So that involves the desktop, the phone, tablet, whatever we might do, anything that has a user interface, a shell. Convergence is, I think, the big umbrella for what I will be focusing on. In addition, I'll also have the pleasure of working together with the community team, which is something entirely new to me. I've been there; they've been really supportive. David, Mike, Nick, and everybody else. But now I think I'm getting more involved and in that work, and so I'm really excited about that aspect. It's lots of things to learn for me personally, but I think like we'll have good times there. So for 1510, for this upcoming cycle, the key priority, as I said in the keynote earlier today, will be convergence on our side, and there's various types of convergence. So there's code convergence. Right now we have multiple code bases. That's the way how we look at it internally, where we have Ubuntu desktop as the Debian-based, Deb-based distribution that we have out there, Unity 7, X, and all that good stuff. And then on top of that, we have the Ubuntu Touch code base, which officially I think the marketing name is Ubuntu for Devices, which we feed the phones from to all those commercial products, but also like the reference platforms that we have, the Google Nexus series of devices. And then in addition, we have what I described earlier as a playground, right? So Desktop Next, which was an attempt to bring the phone technology onto the use cases for of a desktop. See how well Unity 8 and Mir really behave and work on a desktop environment, but then also like see what are the bits and pieces of the underlying middleware that we had to bring up for the phone, and how what are the comparable equivalents on the desktop. And so I think that has been quite successful. So quite successful project. I think the peak of that was really like the demo that Will did at MWC, showing a tablet plugging in periphery. I think we used a keyboard or so, and all of a sudden it switched from a tablet, single window, full screen mode into a windowed mode, a desktop mode. And so I think this was a glimpse into the future of what's coming this cycle. So those are kind of the streams that, work streams that we're currently already working on. And then for those that have followed the session so far today, there's this new thing, Snappy, and it's a technology. It's not a product per se. It's a whole set of infrastructure, ecosystem technologies that we're currently, offering and implementing still. And so incorporating that technology and embracing those ecosystems and integrating with that infrastructure, I think, will also be a big task for the team in this upcoming cycle. So that's the not so short summary of what's ahead of us.
So we have these two worlds. We've got the phone. You've got image-based updates and confined apps. And then on the desktop side, you've got kind of everything Deb managed and in this cultivated archive. Moving forward, when we get to a converged point, what is that going to look like for both the phone and the desktop perspective? I know Snappy is going to play a central role in this.
Yeah, that's a good question, and kind of forgot to touch base on that in my introduction. I think it will be two separate things, right? So there will be the Debian-based distribution, and you will install Ubuntu as you know it today. You might choose to add or remove packages and turn Ubuntu into your server or your customized laptop, your developer station, whatnot, whatever way you're using Ubuntu. That just will be there, and I called it the source of all goodness this morning. This is just tried and true. This is Ubuntu, right? Everything else will be based on top of that. And so Snappy as a technology and offerings that will be based on the Snappy technology are then building on top of that. So for what we currently, going forward, we'll do a new image that will incorporate and embrace Snappy for desktop users and phone users. And it will take software that we have in the archive, grab those, we'll build an image out of that, and then existing apps that we have on the phone, for example, like Click apps, we'll move them, transition them over to become Snap apps eventually, and that's that. And I think the use cases are slightly different. If you have a need to manage a device like on your phone, nobody would dare to just upgrade his phone via app. You just expect like a single system image. That's not going to change on the phone side, on the mobile side, on the managed device side. But then there's this large developer community which is depending upon a highly customizable system. And there will be app, and there will be Debian-based packages without any further change.
So what can people in the community do to usher in this new kind of Ubuntu distribution? What can we do to make more Snappy packages, I guess, or convert Deb packages to Snappy packages?
Right. I mean, that's sort of task zero whenever you start a new community, a new ecosystem, right? You want app developers. You want to enable app developers. So I think ASIC is leading the developer story specifically as part of the larger core organization. And I think feedback that you have regarding our tooling would be really appreciated. I think there's the first draft is out, the first iteration of our developer tools and documentation. We spent a whole week last week in amongst other topics, but planning also the developer story. ASIC, I think, called it Snapcraft in his keynote earlier today. And so, providing feedback and just, helping us to improve that experience, I think would be, a major first step.
So that's an important point. Snappy is very new technology. It's still being defined, and we've got this whole core track right now going on today, tomorrow, and Thursday that's going to be defining a lot of what it's going to do going forward. So people can get involved in those discussions and help direct that and point out any potential things that we haven't thought about yet and learn how to do that. And so that's Alex Asac. ASAC is his nick. It's Alexander Sack. He's the one driving that forward, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. We've got one question in IRC from Witzel. He says, is there going to be such thing as Snappy Desktop for average non-phone users?
Yes. So there are sessions around, I think it's called actually really like Snappy Desktop, where we take what we have with Desktop Next, so the Unity 8 and Mir-based OS stack, and take it to the level where the average user can use it. And I think with average in that case, I think we're targeting the person that needs a productivity suite, that needs a browser, and some software for media consumption. I think that's sort of the first iteration that we're targeting, and that will incorporate Snappy. But again, this is in parallel to your well-known Ubuntu distribution.
So is Snappy Desktop kind of going to target the average consumer who just wants to buy a device at a store and it works, and they install apps instead of managing their system? Is that kind of the idea?
Correct. Yeah. Okay. And so, we do quite a bit of preloads with our OEM partners, and so that what we described here as Snappy Desktop, I think that would be also a target product or a target feature set for those type of engagements.
Okay. And Dragon77 has an interesting question. He asks, will Unity 8 come to the traditional Debian-based images?
It's already there, isn't it?
It was with the Desktop Next stuff.
Well, I think...
I mean, it should all be in the archives, but are we gonna support Unity 8 on that traditional setup?
Yeah,
in addition to the Desktop?
We do already, right? I think you can install Unity 8 today as an additional session. Yes. And in LightDM, you have an option, which shell you want to enter. So it's essentially already there. I think, and maybe I'm just jumping to assumptions here, whether the question might be whether it will be the default for the Debian image or the Debian-based image. And we said earlier, we want to give that decision back to the power of the community. I think one lesson we've learned in the past is that we need to make sure quality is up, the feature set that everybody expects, and we have a lot of people on that particular distribution, is to the level that people expect to do the daily work. And mostly being developers, I think it's important that we have that feature parity before we make any such decisions.
So you mentioned that Unity 8 may not be the default on the traditional desktop. Is it going to be the default on the Snappy one?
No, it will be. I think it's a question of. I think it's a question of when, and I think.
My question really is it going to be the default to start with on the Snappy desktop?
Yes, definitely.
All right. Elfie, who is from the Xubuntu team, is asking, how is this future going to impact flavors? Assuming there are no problems, what would a flavor gain from it?
So, as a flavor that builds on top of the archive, I think there's no negative impact, right? I think benefits that you could gain as a flavor might be, a more modern stack. So again, like I'm, eyeballing, for example, X versus Mir there. There's obviously still, the open discussions that we had when we introduced Mir, whether, how good a KDE would, not Snap, work on top of Mir. What's the integration story there? But I think we're moving that whole OS stack to a more modern design and architecture. And I think if you technically can, I mean that's a big benefit for you as a flavor if you're able and willing to adopt those technologies. But good thing about open source is if there are technical reasons or other reasons that prevent you from moving that direction, then it there won't be any negative impact. Canonical is not. I often hear feedback that we do strategic things like Mir, to exclude certain members of our larger community, and it's just not true, right? So I think you still have the full power of the archives, to do your flavor and build up on what is Ubuntu.
And will we be providing like build services or something if flavors want to provide a Snappy based image for their flavor?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So I think that also answered Walter's question that followed about whether XFCE and LXDE could also be snap packaged. Walter, if that didn't answer your question, feel free to re-ask it. Dragon77 asks, will developers be able to use dynamically linked libraries with snap packages? So there's two parts. There's whether or not you can use them where the library is part of your snap package and it's just loaded dynamically, or whether or not you can use dynamically linked to libraries that are elsewhere on the system. Right. Can you address both of those?
To some extent. So dynamically linked within your snap, sure, because within your snap you can do, that's yours. We don't really impose anything how you would do this. I mean, outside of the confinement restrictions and everything else, but generally, like the way how you want to bring up your app is "quote unquote" your problem, right? It's your choice. The being self-contained, however, Snap being self-contained, however, probably you won't be able to share libraries across snaps. But I think that's a question that for the Snappy core devs, so Astack again or Michael Vogt, MVO on IRC, to really understand that better. I'm probably not the best person to elaborate. They're planning some deduplication feature where if you have two snaps that bring the same component, the same library, then they will deduplicate. However, how this is implemented and working, we would have to reach out to those folks.
Okay. D. Shimmer asks, and I was expecting this to come up, did Mark say yesterday that there would be a fully converged device this year?
Yes, he did. And we shrugged and said, yep, that's the plan. So it's, that's going to happen. We're working with partners on that and are on track to deliver this year.
So we don't have any details on the actual hardware or the partner, but all of the software, that's what we're talking about this week. So if you're interested in that, you can find out all the information about that, and you can come and be a part of that also and help us deliver this converged device this year. Mm-hmm. All right. That's all the questions we have for now. If you can think of any more, again, go ahead and just keep asking them in the IRC channel. Thank you, Ollie, for all of your answers. I really appreciate that. Going to go on now to talk with Svetlana. I know you're in a lot of projects, like I said earlier. You're in a lot of channels. But could you tell us a little bit about how you first got involved in Ubuntu, how you found out about it and started being a contributor?
It was in 2013, around in June. I had some crazy idea for like a game idea. And also some auto programs, and I've been a Ubuntu user since 2009, and I finally decided to say, how I'm going to develop my own ideas, and my thought is the Ubuntu women group, because I'm a woman, and it was like the only group I had in mind. On the mailing list, I asked for help. Then, like in the meetings, I quickly understood that there's many people who had a hard time in getting involved, and I started with that, trying to help women to get involved with Ubuntu and open source. Then I moved on based on the skills I picked up from editing the wiki to the docs team. Then just moved around to other teams, seeing who needs help, and that's how I got involved in many other teams, like the leadership team, trying to get them going and to help to lead stuff. The membership board to help to get more members into the Ubuntu community, and just general help on getting more people onboarded and getting involved with Ubuntu.
So you are on the membership board now. What advice do you have to people who are either new to Ubuntu or thinking about getting involved and contributing to Ubuntu?
Think what skills you have and how you can use them. Find the teams that are doing what the skills you have, and sign up to their mailing lists and introduce yourself. Also say hi on their internet relay channel, and see how you can get involved, because it allows you to get some work done, and it also allows you to interact with the people that are already in the team, where they can give you comments and testimonials when you apply to membership.
Right. Testimonials, I know, are the big one that the membership board looks for. So of all the teams and projects you're involved in now, which one do you find the most exciting or the most fun?
It's hard to say, since some seem to be like at a standstill, but like I think the most exciting one is the project Harvest, try and get the Harvest service going. So there's bit-sized bugs for new contributors to do and get their feet wet into getting involved, and to build on the Harvest idea for the other two types of contributors.
And where does the Harvest project live right now?
It lives on the old Harvest service, because we haven't had any bugs fixed, and I think we also have no one that is willing to host it on their server, so we have somewhere we can test it.
But what's the URL to Harvest? Is it harvest.ubuntu.com?
I believe so.
Okay. And let me put the link to it in the IRC. Make sure it's the right one.
Yeah, it's harvest.ubuntu.com.
Okay. And the Launchpad project, what is that?
Give it a minute. It's posted.
Okay, so launchpad.net/harvest. This is a Django website, if I remember correctly. Yes?
It is.
Okay, so if somebody's got some Python and Django skills and wants to start contributing to Harvest, who should they contact?
They should either contact me or Daniel Holbach, since he's the maintainer of the project. But I'm the one who can get people onboarded, since I know what's the bugs and what needs to be worked on.
All right. Well, thank you, Svetlana, for being on, and thank you for everything that you do within the Ubuntu community. I really appreciate all the hard work you put in, and again, I just see you everywhere and contributing to just about everything. So thank you very much for all of that.
Not a problem.
All right, we don't have any other questions. I suspect people are all off in different online summit sessions. But thank you, those of you who are on IRC asking questions. Thanks, Ali and Svetlana, for being on the Hangout with me. I appreciate it. It would be very lonely otherwise. We will be back again next week for another Ubuntu Community Q&A. It will be hosted just on ubuntuonair.com then, so check that for the correct time because it's going to be different from this one. You can follow Ubuntu On Air on Twitter at Ubuntu On Air. You can also follow it on YouTube, youtube.com/UbuntuOnAir, where you'll see this and all kinds of other videos that get recorded as part of that. All right, thank you again, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.